Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Uh, Today we will put some lights on the need and importance of environmental education. Dear students, this environment, as you know, is the surroundings. Uh, it has been stated in the Rig Veda that the dust of Mother uh, Earth and the brightness of uh, Father Sky should remain be associated with the brightness, should remain be associated with the full brightness for our welfare. My dear students, uh, as you know, or as I reported, that this environment is our surroundings. It includes all the aspects here in our surroundings. Uh, this environment comprises of the living and non-living components, or we can say it comprises of the biotic and abiotic components. My dear students, yes, there is a kind of ecological balance that is possible only once there is the relationship between living and non-living components. Once the sort of relationship is uh, active, that means the, what I should say, there is a sort of order of that very particular environment. So keeping this balance in concern, keeping this aspect of this environment in concern, we need to have a sort of guidance, we need a sort of counseling, we need a sort of education that is necessary to maintain this decency. My dear students, as you know, this environment is uh, the composition of resources. This environment is the composition of living things. This environment is the composition of non-living things. We can say this environment contains all the aspects here in our uh, surroundings. That means you being the uh, living organisms, you being the living human beings of this society, you had a kind of responsibility to look after this very particular aspect that is possible only once you had a sort of education related to the environmental components. My dear students, keeping the importance of this very environmental education in concern, it is very mandatory to say that uh, if we do not control the hazards that are prevailing, we do not control the disadvantages that are here by using the resources irrelevantly. We are practicing the resources irrelevantly, whether it is the resource of uh, water resources, whether it is the air, related to air, whether it is related to uh, environment. Obviously we are using it without any particular strategy. So this kind of uh, problem that is prevailing, it will imbalance the society, it will imbalance the environmental system, and will lead to disorder of this very particular uh, surroundings. My dear students, keeping this uh, exploitation sort of this deterioration in concern, we need to follow some steps uh, that is necessary, and because of that very particular steps, we will be able to uh, preserve the future generations, we will be able to uh, control the future exploitations as well. Dear students, there are different aspects through which we can have a sign of understanding. Let us talk about that. There are different environmental issues, my dear students. uh, Diverse learning should be there, and there should be different environmental approaches or we can say use of resources and conservation is necessary. Dear students, to develop an awareness of environment and its lead problems, to develop an ability for what I should say evaluating environmental components in terms of ecological, social, cultural, aesthetic, and I should say educational factors. My dear students, to provide an opportunity for an active participation for the solution of environmental problems, to develop a basic understanding of structure, process, and problems of environment, to help in acquiring knowledge and variety of experiences of the environment and associated problems. My dear students, keeping these very steps in concern, it is obvious, it is clear to say that the kind of that environmental issues, the kind of balancing this very particular environment, these are the steps and factors, these are the aspects through which we will control this environment. We will have a sign of understanding and comprehension how to preserve, how to make the social order, how to make the social balance, how to make the environmental balance, how to create balance between the different components of this very particular environment. It is because of these steps through we will reach the target. My dear students, let me add some points, dear students. uh, as we know that the food and nutrition, one of the main aspect that is there in our environment, that production of food supply and use of food, values of food, balanced diet, malnutrition, etc. We'll see these things once we had a kind of guidance and counseling related to the environmental education. You had one more, that is this environmental education has a responsibility to give education about this population education, stress on problems, or we can say the ways and means of promoting population education. Dear students, uh, this is very serious issue to have the understanding of this environmental education, because the balance that is between the living and non-living components, this is possible only because of this very particular education, because we are using and practicing the sources, we are using and practicing the uh, uh, different genuine sources, but abruptly, not in a designed manner, not in a strategic way. We are what I should say polluting the water, we are polluting the air. There is a kind of sort of pollution of noise pollution that is actually exploiting this very particular environment, that is very particular deteriorating the conditions. So once this kind of situation will continue, it will obviously lead the disastrous system. And finally, this there will be the what is denunciation of what I should say denunciation and kind of deterioration of this very particular, and we will not be able to live the way we are living. So it is necessary to have the sort of education, it is necessary to have the sort of guidance, it is necessary to have a sort of counseling that makes us able and capable to understand the uh, uh, makes us able to understand about the environmental issues. It makes us able to understand the different components, whether it is living component or non-living component. Like we had to see how to preserve water, how to preserve the air, how to preserve the other sources, how to preserve this sort of brightness that is there in the environment, how to see the forests, how to observe the forest, how to control, because you know there is a sort of deforestation that is there in forest. This deforestation creating imbalance, this is creating a sort of abstruse in the environment. Once this deforestation will continue, obviously it will pollute the air, and this pollution of air, obviously it will create so many diseases, uh, so many kind of diseases. This is genuine to say that you being the students of this very society, you are able, you can understand, you must have a comprehension that how far these kind of activities will lead the disasters. uh, so my dear students, I should say uh, that you are the mature students, you has had the kind of understanding, you will yourself make it able to understand that obviously the how to preserve this environment, how to make the sort of balance, what kind of issues should be there, how we should take this sort of education guidance that makes able to understand, have a comprehension. So dear students, keeping these very situations in concern, keeping these very situations uh, in front, uh, it is very necessary that we should have a sort of instruction about this environment, so that we will be able to preserve, will be able to protect the future generations, we will be able to protect our present, even I should say the future, because of that very particular environmental experiences. We are very much familiar about the ill effects that are there because of this abruptly use of this resource, abruptly use of this environmental system. So having the kind of experience, having the sort of exposure, uh, it is very necessary that we should follow, and we should have a sort of education, and this education is very genuine, and this education is very mandatory for the societies, for the people, for the cultures, for the students, when I should say for those who don't have the sort of education, I should say, who are the part of this society. Once this sort of instruction is available for the people, inshallah everybody will be aware about, every human being will be aware that how to control this system, and inshallah it will be good for us, for future generations, and it will be good for societies as well. Thank you, my dear students.